Hello guys, this is a demonstration of how load balancer works. We are going to use an application called as HAProxy, which is going to act as a load balancer to balance the load amongst multiple web servers. To implement this scenario, I've created an infrastructure where we have got a machine which will be used for installing HAProxy, and we'll be using two more virtual machines where we will be installing HTTPD. So these will be our web servers. Our end user will send a request. The request will reach to the HAProxy application, or you can say the load balancer, and load balancer, depending on which server is free, will send the request to either web server 1 or the web server 2, and whichever server will receive the request will send a response back to the client. So this is the scenario that we want to implement. To implement this scenario, if I go here, I can see Vagrant status shows me that I have got 3 virtual machines running. This one will be used for HAProxy, and these two will be used for installing HTTPD in them. We'll start with server 1 first. We'll create a web server on this machine, we'll create a web server on this machine, and at the end we'll install HAProxy on HS server machine. So let us begin with the server 1. So if I say Vagrant SSH server 1, here we will be configuring HTTPD. This is a very simple example. Okay, so let us install HTTPD here. Sudo yum install HTTPD. This will take a second. I want to install it. Yes. Okay, so I want to create a very simple index.html file in my default document root, which is in my case sudo vim/var/www/html index.html, and I may say very simple example. This is h1, this is server 1. So this is a very simple example where we are going to create a website with only one name or only one line. This is server 1. Let us turn the service on. To do this, we can say sudo systemctl start HTTPD. Okay, if you want, you can enable it as well. So if the machine gets restarted, it will automatically start next time. Great. I want to check the status of it as well, so that if something goes bad, I can see it before I confirm that it is working. Yeah, it's active and it's running. Wonderful. Now I want to add the firewall rules for HTTPD. So it is going to be like firewall cmd add service, which is HTTP. I want to add it permanent, and then once it is added, I can confirm that by saying list services, and it shows that it's not yet loaded. It's just because we haven't reloaded it yet. So if I say reload, and if I say list services again, it wasn't there, but now it is there, which means this web server is set up properly. I can check that quickly by saying http://localhost, and it shows me this is server 1, so it works fine. I can use IP address command, IP addr show command, in order to see what is the IP address of this machine. This is 192.168.1.97. This is the public IP address of this machine. So I can use my host's browser and browse this website, and it shows me this is server 1. So that means my web server 1 is ready. Now let us go here and continue with the second server and follow the same steps on this machine as well. So the first step here is to install HTTPD. Sudo yum install HTTPD. Yes, please. Great. So now let's create our index page for this website, which is going to be like sudo vim/var/www/html/index. It's index.html, and here I'm going to write this is server 2. h1. Okay, so this is a very simple example. Again, we need to turn this service on. So again, it's going to be like systemctl start httpd. You may want to enable it as well. And once it is enabled, once it is started, I want to check the status of it as well. So the status is active and running, which means things should work properly. Now before I access it over the network, I'll have to add the firewall rules. So again, it's firewall cmd -- add service http, and I want to add permanently, and I can say reload just to confirm list services. It should show me HTTP here. So it seems like the server is already set up now. I can confirm that by saying http://localhost, and it shows that this server is server 2. Wonderful, great. So it seems like from the diagram, if I go back to here, this web server and this web server, both of them are now ready. I can access the IP address of this machine. Sorry, I need to check that one more time. Forgot to check the IP address. So let's check this and verify this on the web server, on the browser as well. So IP-addr show, it is 98 here. So let me copy this and go back here. This is my second website. This is server 1 and this is server 2. So both of them are ready, and I can confirm them by looking at the output here. Wonderful. Now let's continue further with this machine and install HAProxy here. Okay, so this can be done by saying HA server. Wonderful. So now we'll install the HAProxy here. Great, it is almost done. Wonderful, it is done. So now it is installed. Let's configure it. Sudo vim/etc/haproxy haproxy.cfg. Now I'm directly jumping towards the end of it, where I can see that there are two parts here. One is called as a front end and the other one is called as a backend. I don't want to make it static, so let's delete all the static related stuff and change this to port number 80, because this is going to be used for HTTP, and HTTP's default port is port number 80. Now this is pointing to the app. The default backend is nothing but the app, which is configured here, backend app. Now if you look at the configuration here, there are 4 servers. To be honest, in our case there are only 2. If you want, you can change the name of them and say this is server 1 and this is server 2. This is for your understanding. This is not the actual host name. This is just for you to understand. These are 2 servers here. Now I need to configure these servers with their respective IP addresses. In my case, it is 192.168.1.97:80, because it's a port number, it's a HTTP server, so its port number is 80. And again, it's 192.168.1.98:80. I can confirm that again by using the browser. I can say it's 98 and it's 97. Both of them are working. So I'm configuring them here. Now if you see here, the balancing strategy we are using is the round robin. So the request will first go to the web server here, and when the next request comes, then it will go to the web server 2. Again, when the next request comes, it will go to web server 1, then web server 2, then web server 1, then web server 2. And this is going to be the strategy, the load balancer, the HAProxy will use here. Wonderful. Let me continue with the configuration here. I think that is it. Let's start the service. You can do that by saying systemctl start. The web service name, the service name here is HAProxy. HAProxy. It will take a second. It's done. If you want, you can enable it as well. And like always, before you say it's done, I want to check the status of it. The status is active and running. Wonderful. Now because I want to access it outside the machine or over the network, so I'll have to add the firewall rules. So firewall cmd add service. Service is HTTP, because we are going to use the port number 80. Permanent, and permanent Oops, my bad. And we want to reload it. Wonderful. I just want to check that it is listed or not. And yeah, it is listed. Wonderful. I'm going to get the IP address of this machine, addr show, and the IP address of this machine is 192.168.1.96. I'm going to use my browser and I'll be using this HAProxy IP address, and you can see that this is the HAProxy which is going to server 1 first. So if I go here, the request this time was generated by me, that's an end user, and it went to the load balancer, that is HAProxy, and it has sent it to the server 1. So this this request has been executed by web server 1. If I say refresh, it's going to the web server 1 right now. Now it is going to web server 2, which means this time when the request came, load balancer sent this request to server 2. Okay, let me refresh one more time. This time again the request came and it went to server 1, and if I keep on refreshing it, you can see that it is going to web server 1 and web server 2 alternatively. It's going to those servers alternatively just because in our configuration we said that the load balancer strategy is round robin. So if you open the configuration here, we already have said that the balance is round robin. So round robin means it will go to web server 1, then web server 2, again web server 1, again web server 2. So this is the round robin fashion, and thus the HAProxy will make sure that all the servers will get the request, and no one server will get bogged down with multiple requests. This is an example of load balancing. Thank you guys.